Hello again to anybody watching today. So this video is going to be a little different because instead of doing a product review or a try-on video, I actually wanted to do a video on a little piece of fitness history. Specifically, I wanted to cover a woman named Abbye Stockton, aka Pudgy Stockton. Now, I did not know about this person until more recently, and I imagine that a lot of other people also do not know who she is anymore. However, if you are a woman who enjoys going to the gym to lift weights, you have this woman to thank. This is Abbye Stockton. She was one of the first professional female bodybuilders in the United States. She was born Abbye Evel on August 11th, 1917. She was given the name Pudgy as a child, and that nickname stuck with her for the rest of her life. As a teen, she would exercise in the privacy of her own home, as at that time it was still frowned upon for women to do strenuous physical activity outside of their own work. You're not gonna get shamed because you are working your garden or anything like that, but actual exercise, typically it was considered unfeminine for women to be all sweaty and gross. And up until about the mid-1900s, you wouldn't actually see a female, anything that would resemble a female bodybuilder outside of carnivals and as a sideshow act. It was considered entertainment and not something that any self-respecting woman would do, or certainly no professional females outside of just being sheer entertainment. And women doing strength training was definitely not accepted by society at large as something that was okay to do. Then in her senior year of high school, she would meet her future husband, Les Stockton, and it was with him that she actually started lifting weights more regularly and more heavily. So as a young adult, she was working as a telephone operator, and in that sedentary job, she didn't like the impact being so sedentary was having on her body, both physically as well as aesthetically. And so she decided to start lifting weights in order to combat that and to start working out more vigorously. I also want to make note on how amazing it was that her husband was so supportive of her career, considering that up until about the peak of her career, it was still very much frowned upon by most of society for women to be doing what she did. And not only did he support her, he did it with her, and we stan a supportive man. So when she started lifting weights was about in the 1930s, and her and Les would actually become regulars at Muscle Beach. They would perform gymnastics acts at first along with the weightlifting. Some of their more notable acts was they would do a hand-to-hand handstand with Abbye lifting Les above her head while they were holding hands. And at the time, Abbye was 5'2" and 115 pounds, and Les was 180 pounds, and she would just lift him up over her head. They would also do this act where Abbye would sit on Les's arm while holding a 100-pound dumbbell over her head. So it was actually these gymnastic performances that would get her discovered by the media, and she would start to be featured on the covers of various fitness magazines. At the end of her career, she had been featured on the cover of about 40 different magazines. So not 40 times in total, it was just 40 different magazines that she had been on the cover of. And in Strength and Health magazine, she actually was running her own column. She ran it for about 10 years. It was called Barbells, Bells, where she gave tips and information and training advice to other women who also wanted to do strength training. She became this media darling, and because of her popularity, was able to pave the way for other women to get into this industry and it not to be so stigmatized for women who wanted to build muscles and not just be thin, not just lose weight, but actually be strong and have muscle definition. And in 1947, the couple was actually able to host the first, at least in the US, the first sanctioned women's weightlifting competition. And at this competition, Abbye set a couple of her own records where she benched 100 pounds, she snatched 105 pounds, and then she performed a clean and jerk with 135 pounds. And now keep in mind, again, she was 5'2" and 115 pounds doing these lifts. World War II comes around, Les ends up serving, but he does survive, and when he comes back, the couple end up opening a women's only strength training gym on Sunset Boulevard, which was, at the time period, one of the first of its kind. It may not have been the only one, and it may not have been the only one in the world, but it was one of the first of its kind. And there were other women's only gyms, but typically they were not what we would think of today as a gym. You know, the whole little strap that you put around your waist and it gives you a wiggle. Very light workouts, definitely not strength training. Abbye would then spend the next couple of decades continuing her work, doing more competitions, working in various other gyms, and then she would retire at the age of 66. However, she would continue to do interviews. An interview in 2002 with Sports Illustrated Women's Magazine, she was quoted as saying, "People used to say that if women worked out, they would become masculine looking or wouldn't be able to get pregnant. We just laughed because we knew they were wrong." Abbye Stockton's name may not be a household one any longer, but she absolutely revolutionized women's fitness and paved the way for other women who wanted to be strong and lift weights and not just be thin. Every time a woman proudly shows off her muscle gains or gets on stage for a bodybuilding competition, Abbye's legacy lives on. I hope you enjoyed learning about this little bit of fitness history, and I will see you next time.